Thank you everyone for being here today. We're excited to present the first video recorded interview for the Comp Women's Committee Ideas series, Shattering Glass Ceilings, celebrating remarkable physicists. And so today we have Charlotte here with us along with Patricia and Young. And Charlotte, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Charlotte, and I'm a PhD candidate at TMU, or Toronto Metropolitan University, and I'm joining Sarah for this first ever Shattering Glass Ceilings video.
And then Young, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Young Lee. I'm a principal medical physicist at Electa, which is a radiation therapy hardware and software company. And I have been working as a medical physicist within hospital environment for a long time, 17 years. I transitioned into industry about 4 years ago.
Awesome, thank you. And Pat, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Patricia Baxter. I am on the traditional territories of the Algonquin languaged people. I am a diagnostic imaging physicist with Island Health, and I have been working in the hospital as a student and then as a master's student and continued on. They just never could get rid of me since 2001. So it's been a while and I love it. And here I am. So pleased to be here.
Thinking back to when you were an undergraduate student or graduate student, what made you choose medical physics in the first place?
So I found this question quite difficult, mainly because I think I hadn't thought about a career very well when I was younger. This may be due to the fact that my parents did not study science. I enjoyed science a lot. Didn't really think about career other than growing up in sort of a Korean culture. Many people really wanted you to be either a doctor or a lawyer. And these are kind of the jobs that I think we just had in our heads. My high school did probably have career advisors, but I think I never seeked it out. I just never thought about any job at all. I think in some ways medical physics chose me. I think I carried on studying what I wanted to study, which happened to be science in the beginning, then happened to be physics, then an undergrad in physics. I was a reasonably good student. I wouldn't say I was, the best student, and yet I finished my first degree. And because I didn't really know what to do, I decided to then go into further studies. Ended up studying what I was interested in, which was kind of applied physics. And so medical physics was a good choice to, I think, go into. And then while I was studying my master's degree, there was fully funded PhDs that came up, and I happened to then go into that. And so really not that planned out, which is in some ways, I think good and bad. I didn't have it planned out, and yet I happened to find something I really enjoy. I somehow landed on this journey of becoming a medical physicist that really has been very fulfilling so far.
What made me choose medical physics? Like Young, I did not have a clear plan leaving high school as to what I wanted to do. I had a scholarship to the university and I knew that I wanted to do something with sciences. So I enrolled in the chemistry program, and that I was also enrolled in the co-op program, so cooperative education, where I would go and do related work experiences in between semesters. So I started with chemistry and then found that I couldn't really do chemistry because I would have asthmatic reactions in the lab. And I'm like, well, that's not something I want to do for the rest of my life. And I pivoted towards physics at that point. And then I did a few co-op terms in places that were industrial or places that, really high concentrations of shift work and other things. And my body just didn't like that very much. For my third co-op term, I was presented with a choice of either going to Hawaii to work on the volcanoes and do geophysics, which was something that would be amazing, or to go to Kingston, Ontario to work in medical physics. So like, okay, they were very evenly matched until I found out that Hawaii doesn't pay and Kingston did. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go so I can, pay tuition next semester. And it hooked me. So before with the physics, I was like, well, I'm going to end up being a high school teacher. That's okay. I love teaching. I love people. That's fantastic. And when I went to Kingston and worked in the cancer clinic, I'm like, oh, you can apply physics to people. I don't have to study the really small or the infinitesimally large. Those are not the only thing I can do with physics. I can actually work with people and in medicine, and that was what hooked me.
I feel like you've utilized, your situation and whatever you've had really wisely, and furthered your career in such a nice way. What do you feel like what gives you power? What do you feel like your superpower is?
What gives me power is connection. I connect with people really naturally, really easily. So when I go to smaller communities, when I see the challenges that they have in these very, very small single X-ray room communities, often they are servicing Indigenous populations, so they're underfunded. They are some of the X-ray equipment we've had in some of those places is 25 years old, and we can no longer repair it. So, trying to keep those places open has been challenging. And we make hard decisions, but as far as my superpower is trying to find those solutions that keep us connected. So, in some of those very small places, how can we continue to connect with our populations using this 25-year-old equipment that isn't really functional, isn't passing all of those criteria for the requirements, but it's still capable of doing some of these tasks that we ask it to. When do we say no? When do we have to find that hard point? And being able to connect with that community and say, this is the reason why we're only doing X number of X-rays, and this piece of equipment is 25-year-old. If something breaks on it, we cannot fix it. So let's build a plan so that we know that we can take people from this community to the next nearest community, so that we can keep providing quality care for this population, which has been neglected, severely neglected over the course of the Canadian existence, right? So I'm going to throw that back to you, Young. What's your superpower?
Well, it's funny because in many ways I think that's kind of, my superpower is very similar. And I think I've been very successful being able to connect with people well. I didn't realize that was a superpower, I think, until fairly recently. I thought, our superpowers are like something we've learned, something like within medical physics, or, like experiences within the job. But I genuinely do feel that, and how I communicate with people. So I've been told multiple times in my lifetime, in my working environment, where, oh, you're so different to other physicists. And I used to think, like, what does that actually mean, right? Because I mean, obviously there's, visibility different, like there's a lot of things, but a lot of that actually was that people said I was very easy to ask questions, talk to. Hence, that could be a detriment as well in an environment like medical physics, where you get called a lot. My phone was always like constantly ringing. People were always at my door. But at the same time, you realize how good of a skill that is. And then I feel like, you and I both have utilized that well to connect other people. And I think that's been very exciting for me in the last few years of being able to be helpful to someone. But in many ways, I get a lot of joy out of being
Mhm.
helpful, like being able to, I think, help somebody do something that they were going to do better because I was able to, let's say, connect them to the right person or connect them in the right way, give them the right resources. And so I think being able to use my superpower, which let's say is, communication, to actually help others, I think makes me feel really, really good. But yeah, one of the things that I'm always fascinated by when I talk to other women leaders like yourself is I feel like many of us like suffer from imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And I've heard this a lot, like where people feel like, um, they're not supposed to be there, or they're not the right leader, or what advice would you give them? Like, I mean, do you ever feel that, first of all? And then, like, do you have
Mhm.
any advice for others that feel that?
I feel less imposter syndrome now as I've gotten further into my career. I feel much less imposter syndrome once I passed that CCPM exam and got the certification. I'm like, yes, I actually do know what I'm talking about. Oh, thank goodness. I felt it for a long time, especially as I saw physicists who went into diagnostic imaging after I did get their certificate before me, but they also went through a proper residency and a proper, they had people who could actually mentor them through it. So once I got over that, once I got over the fact that I was taking the hard road to getting to that space, and that hard road actually gave me a lot more experience and ability to work with people. So some of these other physicists may not have those communication and connection skills that I do. They sure, absolutely, they have more letters after their name. They're high, more at a higher level or whatever it may be. But I feel like I belong. I belong in that space because I did go through those hard roads, and I did have the imposter syndrome. I don't know if men actually ask that question of themselves. Do I have imposter syndrome? I actually honestly don't know. I should ask some of our colleagues here at some point, because I know I did, and at the same time, I'm like, but I've done all of the same things that they did. So obviously, and people keep telling me I'm doing a good job. So maybe I should start believing them. So yeah, the advice for someone who is suffering from imposter syndrome is to trust that other people believe in you. That is hard.
Yeah, really hard. I mean, I think I think all of us, I mean, I actually don't know any women that I've spoken to that have never felt that. I think there is always a period of time, probably, even more so, I guess, in the earlier times in your career. And I think I mean, in many ways, being able to, I think, have, people talk about it more and also understand that this isn't something that you're just feeling by yourself, I think is hugely useful. And, someone who's as accomplished as you are, saying that, you felt that, I think is also very powerful for other people to hear. Like
Mhm.
I have a lot of wish, for my women friends and women colleagues. Like, so I'm on like a mission of
Yeah.
trying to get more women in more and more like sort of powerful positions. And yet I genuinely don't feel like I need to be in a powerful position to actually help other people get into these positions. And a lot of this is actually trying to break that feeling of not having these sort of imposter syndrome feelings, and also, truly believing where they're at, and applying for that job even if you don't tick every box. Like, this is another problem that I see with all of us, If we wanted to like change career, like we don't just jump and change career. We have to like analyze every aspect and make sure that we hit every single mark. And that's not who we're competing with, right? And so I think being able to understand and help each other to be able to break those barriers, and actually, what's the worst that could happen when you know, go for these things is someone
They
says
say no.
no. Yeah.
They
But then
say no.
yeah, but then it's an opportunity to actually learn why it was a no. You know, and maybe that actually wasn't the right place to go anyway if they said no for no reason.
That was really exciting to listen to. Thank you both so much.